a small alien settlement. Supplies and machinery seem standard, but Ethan senses tension among the locals. He notices a strange child, Celivra, isolated and avoided by everyone. Ethan observes her secretly, learns she is marked, and ostracized due to birthmarks that the settlement interprets as bad omens. Celivra begins tentatively interacting with Ethan, leaving clues of her intelligence and curiosity. Ethan's kindness and small gestures of trust help her slowly open up, creating suspense about the settlement's superstitions and potential danger. Conflict introduced: cultural superstition versus rational human intervention. How far can Ethan go without angering the settlement? Ethan teaches Celivra about human tools and science, slowly forming a bond. Alien children and adults react negatively, creating social friction and danger. Dr. Ayanquo and Commander Iber serve as advisors, highlighting the stakes and moral dilemmas. Suspense builds. Celivra asks questions about why people fear her. Ethan sees the isolation is harmful but struggles with intervention limits. With Celivra invoking her people's right of choice, she chooses Ethan as her guardian, shocking him and establishing stakes. Welcome to my channel Sci-Fi Love Story. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Ethan Vale's shuttle eased through Lysera 7's turquoise skies, and he could hardly look away. From orbit, the planet seemed almost unreal. Vast oceans shimmered like liquid gemstones, and continents spread in rust-colored patterns, winding rivers like veins across its surface. For humans, it was a new world, a chance to help, to explore, to prove that humanity could be more than conquerors. The settlement below was small, tucked into a valley where 3 rivers converged. It had the organic flow of something that had grown naturally, buildings curved and winding as if the land itself had designed them. Ethan's HUD scanned the valley's red dust, identifying the minerals and noting the occasional drop in oxygen from the faulty atmospheric processors. Standard hazard on a new world, nothing he couldn't handle. The shuttle touched down softly, stirring a cloud of fine dust that clung to his boots as he stepped onto the landing platform. Crates labeled with phrases like humanitarian relief and cultural cooperation lined the area. Ethan knew what was inside: water purifiers, solar calibrators, medical scanners, agricultural kits, tools of aid, tools to make lives better, and tools to apologize for humanity's reach into worlds that had survived perfectly well without interference. He glanced at the settlement. The main cluster of dwellings formed a rough circle, but one small house sat alone at the far east edge, far beyond the safe range of the atmospheric processors. It was isolated, lonely. Something about that house made him uneasy, and he felt a pull toward it that he didn't understand. The elders arrived shortly after. Tall, with golden and amber-toned skin and long, pointed ears that reminded Ethan of old Earth myths, they approached with careful courtesy, their expressions polite but wary. The eldest wore robes patterned in symbols Ethan's cultural database, identified as representing water rights and agricultural authority. Clearly someone important. The welcome ceremony was polite, almost stiff. A bitter fermented beverage passed through the crowd, words of cooperation exchanged, but Ethan sensed the tension beneath. People who needed help but resented needing it. He had seen this before on many worlds. He smiled, drank the terrible liquid, and gave the expected speech about human assistance. He watched the isolated dwelling. It seemed almost alive in its quiet defiance, a place no one dared approach. Then he saw movement, a small flicker behind one of the water tanks in the central square. He blinked and it was gone. Over the next hour, while Ethan sorted supplies and water purifiers, the movement appeared again. This time he saw her clearly. A child, pale-skinned, hair black as obsidian, eyes that held an intensity that caught him off guard. She watched, silent and careful, as if she were measuring him, trying to solve a puzzle adults had long given up on. Ethan tried not to stare, focusing on his work. Still, he left a small nutrition bar atop a crate. 5 minutes later, the bar vanished. The girl, moving like a whisper, had taken it. The pattern repeated. Each day, Ethan worked while she watched. She lingered just beyond reach, curious but cautious. Gradually, he left more small items, bars, a self-heating beverage, a tiny multi-tool he immediately regretted offering, but she accepted them all. The distance between them shrank. It was Dr. Ayanquo who first noticed the strangeness. "You realize how people react when that child gets near them?" she asked. Ethan had noticed adults stepping aside, children quietly called away. Even the six-legged settlement dogs kept a careful distance. "They say she's cursed," Dr. Ayanquo added. "Her marks mean misfortune. No one approaches her. She's erased from their records." Ethan felt a chill. Ostracism was universal, but he had assumed context, custom, superstition. But the intensity here was extreme. The child, Selivra, existed in the shadows of her own community. That evening, curiosity overcame him. He approached the isolated dwelling. The HUD warned of low oxygen, but he ignored it. Selivra sat on the steps, small frame hunched. Her wide eyes tracked his every movement. "I'm Ethan," he said gently, activating his translator. "What's your name?" She didn't answer at first. Finally, barely above a whisper, "Selivra." Ethan nodded. "It's nice to meet you, Selivra. I've enjoyed having you around while I work, even if we haven't spoken." She hesitated, then spoke. "You're not supposed to sit near me." "Why not?" "Because I'm marked. The patterns on my skin bring bad things. If you stay too close, it spreads." Ethan considered his words carefully. Superstition, yes. Dangerous to dismiss directly, yes. But kindness had its place. "I don't think luck works like that," he said softly. "Sometimes fear makes people cruel. That's not you, that's them." Selivra looked at him long and hard, studying his face for some proof that he wasn't lying, that he wasn't afraid of her. Slowly, she lowered her tunic, revealing the birthmarks scattered across her shoulders and back. Patterns that her people saw as omens, Ethan saw as random pigmentation, completely ordinary. "They're just birthmarks," he said. "They don't mean anything except that your skin decided to be interesting. You're not dangerous, and you're not cursed." Her small shoulders relaxed slightly. For the first time in years, someone had acknowledged her as a person instead of a threat. The next morning, Selivra appeared at Ethan's worksite, standing beside him instead of at a distance. "Want to help?" she asked, voice steady. He smiled. "Yes, I could use an assistant." She crouched beside him, sorting cables with precision and care, holding each one as if it might bite. Their hands brushed. She did not flinch, but the tension in her body remained. Still, it was progress. The settlement's children watched from a distance. Adults kept well away. Fear and superstition created invisible walls around her. Yet here she was, beside a human, participating, learning. Ethan felt pride in the small victory. Humans were capable of bridging fear with understanding, of showing compassion where others had failed. Dr. Ayanquo arrived, observing carefully. "She's learning fast. Good work, Ethan," she said. Her eyes softened as she knelt to Selivra's level. "I'm setting up medical scans this afternoon. You can come if you want." Selivra's hesitation was brief. "People don't want me near the medical station," she said. "Then we'll make it clear," Dr. Ayanquo replied. "Your presence is not optional. You deserve care, Selivra. They will adjust." The afternoon passed with careful examination. Vital signs, bone density, neural scans, all showed a healthy child, though underweight from poor nutrition. Dr. Ayanquo turned to Ethan. "You're in charge of nutrition. Make sure she gets what she needs." Selivra held the data chip of her results as if it were treasure. For her, it was proof that someone valued her life, her health, her existence. Ethan saw the relief in her eyes, and it burned a quiet promise into his heart. He would protect this child. Later, as they packed tools, she asked, almost shyly, "Why aren't you afraid to touch me?" Ethan smiled, crouching beside her. Fear has a reason, Celevra. I don't see any danger in you. The real danger is letting people decide who's valuable based on superstition. That's what I'm afraid of, but you're fine. You're just a child. Celevra studied him, the weight of years of isolation pressing into her posture, but slowly she relaxed. For the first time, she walked beside him without flinching, without shrinking. The invisible walls of fear were starting to break. The days passed with small victories. She learned to hand tools, follow instructions, and trust in human consistency. Ethan's work was smoother and Celevra grew more confident. Yet the elders noticed, their glances sharp, warning of unseen consequences. Ethan ignored them, knowing that the right thing was often the hardest path. On the final day before the team's mission ended, Celevra spoke quietly, intensely. "When you leave, what happens to me?" Ethan froze, heart sinking. "You go back to the settlement, back to isolation, I'm afraid." She stared, unflinching. "I don't want that. I've learned there's a law, a right of choice. I can choose a guardian from outside, someone who doesn't believe the marks." Ethan's chest tightened. The choice was monumental, impossible. A child asking him to take responsibility to alter his life entirely. He could see the stakes, the legal, practical, personal consequences, but he also saw the alternative, returning her to a life of fear and isolation. He sat silently, considering. This was no longer about superstition. This was about humanity, about the choice to protect, to nurture, to intervene when cruelty masquerades as tradition. Celevra's eyes, steady and unwavering, met his. "I choose you." The air between them was heavy with possibility. Ethan realized with clarity and dread that some choices defined a life. This was one of them. He nodded slowly. I'll consider it, we'll figure it out. I won't let you go back to being alone." The first part of the mission ended on that tense note, a story of courage, compassion, and human defiance of superstition. The settlement continued its cautious life, unaware of the choice that would soon ripple through its traditions, changing everything. The sun dipped low behind the valley, casting long shadows over the isolated house, and Ethan Vale knew one thing for certain. Humanity had shown its best, and the story of one marked child had just begun. The next morning, Ethan awoke with the weight of the choice pressing on him. Celevra had been quiet, almost unnaturally still, as if waiting for a decision that would decide the rest of her life. He dressed quickly, moving through the temporary quarters of the human aid team with a sense of purpose that made Commander Iber raise an eyebrow. "Morning," Ethan muttered, already heading for the shuttle bay. He needed space, thinking room. Iber followed silently, watching him, aware that the man was wrestling with responsibility far beyond his usual missions. "Have you made a decision?" the commander asked finally. I think I know what I need to do," Ethan said, his voice low but firm. "But I need to make it work, not just agree. If I accept guardianship, I have to figure out how to actually care for her." Dr. Ayanquo joined them, tablet in hand. "You're aware of what that entails, Ethan. It's not just moral responsibility. There's food, education, socialization, trauma care, long-term stability. You don't have a home, a routine, or a team set up for childcare." "I know," Ethan said, "but leaving her behind isn't an option. She'll return to isolation. She'll never play, never be recognized, never learn the freedom of ordinary life. I can't do that to her." The shuttle took off, leaving the settlement behind. Ethan looked down at the valley, at the turquoise rivers and the lone house where Celevra had spent so many silent years. For a moment, he allowed himself to imagine what her life had been, days without human touch, meals left at a distance, every interaction filtered through fear. He clenched his fists. Humans had shown cruelty before, but they could also show care. He intended to show her that side. The journey back to the hub station was tense. Celevra sat quietly beside him, observing every panel, every button, every hum of the shuttle. She had a notebook with her, filled with meticulous notes about the settlement, its systems, the tasks they had accomplished together, and questions about life outside the valley. "I read about your people's planets," she said softly. "Your hub stations, your schools, your transportation. I want to learn everything." Ethan smiled, heartwarming despite the stress. "You will. We'll start with the basics. Survival, then reading, then the things that make humans humans. And aliens, of course, everything." Her face lit up with a small, radiant smile, one that Ethan realized she had been denied for too long. That smile was a treasure, a reminder of why he had chosen to act. The hub station was bustling, an ecosystem of humans, aliens, and technology. Ethan had been part of it for years, yet he had never truly felt rooted, until now. As they entered the living quarters assigned to him temporarily, he realized this would become a home of sorts. Small, crowded, makeshift, but safe. "Your room," he said, opening the door to a modest space with a bunk. "Storage compartments and a workstation. It's not much, but it's yours too." Selivra's eyes widened. "Mine?" she asked, almost whispering. "Yes, it's yours," Ethan replied. "We share this space and it's safe. Nothing here will judge you, nothing here will avoid you. You have a place now." Over the next week, the challenge of integrating Selivra into life on the hub station became apparent. She was brilliant, absorbing information faster than most children, but her social skills were fragile. Simple greetings from other children or adults triggered caution or fear. Ethan guided her patiently, explaining customs, showing her how to interact and stepping in when others recoiled. Her first real breakthrough came at the station's library. A group of children clustered around a hollow table, playing a puzzle game that required teamwork. Selivra watched from the edge, hands pressed tightly against her chest. "Go on," Ethan said softly. "You can try, you'll figure it out." She hesitated, then stepped forward. Her fingers hovered over the hollow controls, then she reached out and a tile moved. Slowly, cautiously, she joined the group. The other children blinked, surprised at her skill, and then began to include her. For the first time, she laughed freely. Ethan watched from the side, pride swelling. This was human perseverance and adaptability. She had learned trust, and humanity had met her halfway. The weeks turned into months. Ethan structured her days with a mix of learning, exploration, and practical tasks. She learned to operate environmental sensors, analyze soil samples, and run basic diagnostics on equipment, skills she loved. But he balanced these with art, literature, and play. Selivra's health improved dramatically. She was no longer underweight, her posture straightened, her confidence visible in every movement. Yet her birthmarks remained a source of fascination, curiosity, and occasional fear from newcomers. Ethan addressed it directly with her. "Your marks are beautiful," he told her one afternoon as they worked on calibrating a solar collector. "They tell a story just like a painting. They're part of you, not a warning to anyone else." She nodded slowly, thinking, "They always said I was cursed, but I'm not, am I?" "No," Ethan said firmly. "The only curse is believing others can decide your worth." One day, while installing a new atmospheric processor on a nearby research platform, an alarm sounded. The oxygen levels were dropping rapidly in the lower deck, where the automated sensors had failed. Ethan and Selivra raced to the platform, bypassing automated doors and flashing requested a meeting, wary but curious about the marked child they had once shunned. Ethan arrived with Celevra at his side, confident now, composed and radiant. The elders approached cautiously, their expressions a mixture of suspicion, respect, and uncertainty. "Celevra," Ethan said, nodding toward her. "She's thriving, healthy, confident. She's learning, contributing, and she's happy. That happiness is not a curse. It's proof of what humans can do when they act with understanding and care." The eldest regarded Celevra, then Ethan, and finally spoke. "We have heard of your progress. It is remarkable." Celevra stepped forward, her voice strong. "I am not cursed. I am not dangerous. I have been given a chance to grow, to learn, and to live. That chance came from Ethan Vale. I chose him as my guardian because he saw me as a person, not a mark." The elders exchanged glances. Some faces softened, others remained guarded. But one by one they nodded, acknowledging her words, accepting her choice. Humanity had triumphed not through domination, but through understanding, patience, and courage. Ethan looked down at her, pride and affection swelling in his chest. "You did this, Celevra," he said. "You had the courage to choose, and I had the privilege to help you." Her smile was radiant, "And you had the courage to stay." From that day forward, Celevra became a symbol for the settlement. Not a cursed child, but a bridge between cultures, proof that fear could be overcome by trust, kindness, and perseverance. She continued learning, growing stronger, happier, and more capable every day. Ethan's life changed too. No longer the solitary humanitarian, traveling endlessly from world to world, he now had roots, a family of one remarkable child and a purpose beyond missions and reports. He discovered the joy of watching her explore, learn, and challenge herself, the profound satisfaction of teaching her, guiding her, and protecting her. Years passed. Celevra became a confident young leader, curious, compassionate, and unafraid. She traveled with Ethan on safer missions, contributing her knowledge and skills, learning the human way of problem-solving, and teaching humans about Lysera 7's ecology and culture. She was a bridge between worlds, a living testament to what humanity could achieve when it embraced empathy and courage. One evening, as they watched the twin suns set over the hub station, Celevra leaned against Ethan. "I'm glad I chose you," she said softly. Ethan smiled, feeling a warmth he had never known in his life. "I'm glad you did, and I'll make sure you're never alone again." The stars above shimmered with promise, vast and unending. Humanity had reached into the cosmos, and in doing so had reached into the heart of a child, offering hope, safety, and the chance to be truly free. And in that act, Ethan Vale realized humanity had fulfilled its greatest purpose, not through conquest, not through technology alone, but through the courage to care, to understand, and to protect. The galaxy stretched on, vast and uncertain. Yet in one corner of it, a human and a child walked side by side, shaping a future defined by kindness, courage, and the enduring brilliance of humanity. And somewhere amidst the stars, a child who had once been erased from the world smiled, knowing she was seen, valued, and loved.